You ever feel like you're connected to absolutely everyone, but you're not really connecting with anyone? You know, like you're in a crowded room, but you still feel totally and completely alone? If that sounds familiar, listen, you're not going crazy. You are tapping into one of the biggest, quietest struggles facing men today. Okay, let's get into this. This quote, man, this just says it all, doesn't it? It's from a guy named Marcus, featured in the book Stop Struggling Alone. And it just perfectly nails that feeling. You can rack up hundreds, even thousands of digital friends, but at the end of the day, it feels like no one's really listening. And there's a name for this feeling. The book we're digging into today calls it the modern man's paradox. And it's this bizarre reality we're all living in, being the most technologically connected generation in all of human history, while somehow feeling more disconnected and isolated than ever before. So let's really break this down. What is actually going on here? Why does it feel so hard to make a real, authentic connection when we've got these little supercomputers in our pockets that are supposed to be bringing us all closer together? Well, it turns out this isn't just some vague feeling you have. Nope. It's being driven by two huge, powerful forces that are colliding right now, something the book calls the loneliness epidemic and the digital paradox. Let's tackle that first one. So get this. According to recent data cited in the book, a full 25% of young men say they feel lonely a lot of the time. Think about that. That is 1 out of every 4 guys you see walking down the street feeling a constant, nagging sense of being disconnected. And if we dig into those numbers, that 25% for young men is way higher than the 18% reported by young women. So this isn't just something everyone's feeling equally, it is hitting men particularly hard right now. But here's where things get really interesting. The book totally reframes what loneliness is. It argues it's not a weakness. It's not some personal failure. It is a biological signal. Just like hunger tells you need to eat, loneliness is your body and your brain telling you that a core human need, connection, is not being met. It's an alarm bell. So why now? Why is this alarm bell ringing so loud for so many guys? Well, the book points to what's basically a perfect storm of factors. You know, our deepest friendships tend to fall off a cliff after we leave school. Our online chats become this cheap substitute for the real thing. A lot of old school ideas make it hard for guys to be vulnerable. And of course, we're all starved for time and often move far away from our roots. And that leads us right into that second major force, the digital paradox. This metaphor just nails it. Technology itself isn't good or bad. It's like fire. The problem isn't the fire, it's how you decide to use it. Just look at this. The average young adult is spending more than 7 hours a day looking at a screen. That is a massive slice of your waking life. When you see it laid out like this, it's so clear how just mindlessly scrolling can literally push out the time you need for actual real-world connection. Technology starts to replace your life instead of making it better. Okay, so let's add another layer to this. On top of the loneliness and the digital overload, guys today are standing at this cultural crossroads, getting hit with all these conflicting messages about what it even means to be a man anymore. A lot of the time, the debate feels like you have to pick a side, but this book suggests a third option, what it calls integrated masculinity. And the idea isn't to just throw away tradition, it's to expand on it, to build on it, so that old school stoicism evolves into real emotional resilience. Self-reliance grows into interdependence, knowing when to lean on others. And protecting people isn't just physical, it's about creating emotional safety for the people you love. And all of this, the loneliness, the digital noise, the cultural confusion, it all feeds into what the source calls the purpose vacuum. You see, for generations, men were pretty much handed a set of blueprints for how to live a meaningful life. But for a lot of us now, those blueprints are gone. And just think about it, right? The whole job for life thing is basically a myth now. Our ties to our local communities are weaker than ever. People are getting married and starting families way later in life, if they do it at all. All these big traditional pillars that gave life meaning and structure, they've been eroding, leaving a lot of men just feeling adrift, asking, what am I even doing this for? And really, this is the question, isn't it? This is the question that sits at the very heart of the modern man's struggle. When the old maps don't work anymore, how are you supposed to find your way? How do you build a life that actually feels like it matters? But here's the good news. That feeling of being lost, it's not the end of the story. In fact, it's the perfect starting point to begin intentionally forging your own path forward. So, how do you do it? How do you start forging that path? This quote from Alex in the book is the whole key. You don't just sit around and wait to magically find your purpose. You build it. You create it through action, one day at a time. Meaning isn't found, it's forged. And the book lays out a really clear, actionable game plan for this whole journey. It all comes down to this: being intentional about building real connections, developing that integrated sense of who you are as a man, creating purpose through the things you do, and, this is so crucial, building your brotherhood, a real network of guys who have your back. The big takeaway here is about taking back control. It's about agency. It's that shift in your mind from feeling like life is just happening to you to actively building the life you want, a life that's full of connection, that's driven by purpose, and that's defined by who you choose to be. And look, this isn't just some nice idea in a book. This is a real review from someone who saw a real, tangible change in their brother after he started on this path. This stuff works because it's not about quick fixes. It's about addressing those deep, fundamental needs we've been talking about. So let's just end with this simple question. Forget trying to solve everything all at once. What is one small, doable step you could take this week, just this week, to build one real connection? Maybe it's picking up the phone and calling an old friend instead of just sending a text. Maybe it's looking up a local club for a hobby you have. Whatever it is, the whole journey begins not with some huge, grand plan, but with one single intentional action.